The light on the porch was out. I didn't want to change it. I'd get eaten alive by bugs. But I knew if I didn't fix it now, I'd never get around to it. Sighing, I went to the closet, pulled down the bulbs from the shelf, covered myself in enough bug spray to kill Mothra, and pushed open the screen door that led onto the porch and into the stifling night. I struggled with my flashlight in my mouth, aiming it up to the light socket. My sweaty hands weren't making the job any easier. After a lot of swearing and broken bulbs, I had the light back in. I took a step back and flicked the switch. The halo of light that bloomed out of my porch bathed the lawn in unnaturally bright light, casting shadows everywhere. That's when I saw her. It's strange talking about a time when I didn't know her. Hard to make the words make sense. She was standing out there in the tall grass alone, her long black hair looking like coal against her pale skin. She was wearing a sundress. It was black. I thought that was strange, but knowing her like I know now, it just makes sense. It's just her style. She stood out there on the lawn, just staring. I was taken by how beautiful she was. I was so taken, I guess I forgot my manners and yelled at her to get off my lawn or I'll call the cops. She started making her way through the grass and up to the steps of the porch. Like an idiot, I kept yelling at her the whole time. How could I have been so stupid? When we were finally face to face, she asked if she could stay the night. I was about to grab my gun, but she looked at me with those bright blue eyes, and I just couldn't say no. I offered her my bed and I'd take the couch. She shook her head, asked if I had a cellar, and once she heard that I did, walked away. I didn't see her again for 2 days. She came up from the cellar one night and asked if I had any pets. I said a cat, but he keeps to himself. She told me to get rid of it. I never liked the cat anyways. Only had it for 6 years. I drove out a few hours west and threw him out into the woods. No more cat food to buy. She asked me to brush her hair when I got back. I was so tired, but it wasn't like I could say no. She was my guest, and I had to be a good host. Problem was, I didn't have a brush. As if she knew, she handed me a small white brush. It looked old, like it came from a museum. As we sat in the dark, me with the old brush, her lying against me, I asked her if she had any family in the area. She laughed. God, it sounded like music. Cold, beautiful music. She never answered, but I figured it wasn't important in the long run. As the days went on, I begged her to let me make her dinner. I had just come back from the store with the bug zapper and lotion for those bug bites that kept showing up on my neck, and had picked up a bunch of food. She was such an important part of my life, I just wanted her to know it. I was a really good cook, too. She just looked at me with those bright blue eyes, full of disdain, and I knew I'd overstepped. I apologized over and over again, but it wasn't enough. She said I shouldn't sleep for 2 days. I hung my head as I left her for the night. I deserved it, no doubt about it. I was so stupid. Still drowsy from my punishment, I fell asleep at work a few days later. My boss tore me a new one when he found me snoring at my desk. When he asked why I'd been falling asleep, I told him the truth. My girlfriend hadn't let me sleep for 2 days. He smiled, slapped me on the back, and said he had to meet her. I firmly told him she was busy almost all the time. Who does he think he is? She's been with me for 6 months and I don't even know her name. He thinks he can just waltz in and take her away? I told her all about it that night once I'd finally had a chance to rest my eyes for a few minutes. She smiled. It was like seeing flowers in January. She told me to bring him over tomorrow night and then make myself scarce. I was hurt. But that's how you make a relationship work. Compromise. I wanted to stay while my boss was here. She wanted me upstairs. We compromised and I stayed upstairs. He started coming around a lot more often after the first time. Eventually, it was every night. He wouldn't acknowledge me at work. Just walked by my desk with a dreamy look in his eyes. That dreamy look that I'd always had. I sobbed out in my truck. How could she throw away all our time together? Time went by, and my sadness festered, turning to hate and desperation. I knew what I had to do. I waited until right before dawn. That's when she usually beds down. She sleeps like a rock once she's out, so moving her into the truck wasn't hard. I didn't have any rope to tie her up, but I had that really long silver chain I'd gotten for a song at an estate sale years ago. It seemed pretty sturdy. When I wrapped it around her, her skin started breaking out. Weird. I guess she had an allergy I didn't know about. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that we shared a sunrise together. It was gonna be beautiful. Once I'd driven us out into the middle of nowhere, I took the safety off the gun and waited. When the sun came up, I'd put a bullet in my brain. I'd show her how I gave her everything, even my life. But I wasn't cruel. I told one of my hunting buddies to meet me out here around noon. She'd be fine until then. Fine to think about us in all that beautiful sunshine.